News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. Trump administration officials are exploring opening an antitrust investigation into U.S. homebuilders to tackle the country's housing affordability crisis. The Department of Justice could open the probe in the coming weeks with a potential focus on how information is shared through the leading Builders of America trade group. Shares of D.R. Horton now down more than 2%. Lennar shares down about 2%. 14 years after a mob attacked U.S. consular facilities in Benghazi, Libya, killing the U.S. ambassador and 3 staff members, Attorney General Pam Bondi announced an arrest and extradition.
The FBI has arrested one of the key participants behind the Benghazi attack. Zubair al-Bakash landed at Andrews Air Force Base at 3 a.m. this morning.
Bondi says al-Bakash faces murder, arson, and terrorism-related charges. Iran says it's agreed with the U.S. to continue indirect talks to de-escalate tensions and avert a military confrontation, with Tehran describing the first day as positive. Will Todman is a senior fellow at the Center for Strategic and International Studies.
We've seen this historic protest movement last month in January. The economy is crashing, and the regime is still really weakened after the military strikes that Israel and the U.S. conducted last year. And so for the U.S., then I think they see this as an opportunity to try to get concessions out of Iran.
Iran's foreign minister says discussions were limited to nuclear issues. U.S. officials say they should include Iran's missiles and Tehran's support for regional militias. We are watching a rally in tech stocks after a drawdown all week as stock buyers go bargain hunting. We check markets for you all day long here at Bloomberg. The S&P 500 is up 1.5%, NASDAQ up 1.7%, the Dow up nearly 2%, the 10-year Treasury yield at 4.21%, the 2-year yield at 3.5%. Bitcoin now nearly 12% higher, reclaiming almost all of yesterday's losses, now up to $70,000. Amazon shares are down nearly 8% after the e-commerce and cloud computing company's much higher than expected $200 billion annual capital spending forecast underlined concerns about how much big tech companies are spending on AI-related investments. Now, BlackRock CIO of Global Fixed Income, Rick Reeder, says AI is having an impact on markets and is the way for companies to protect themselves.
You hear the discussion about CapEx, and the CapEx was too high. I would argue there's some other things at play there. CapEx is your moat. CapEx and R&D spend are the way companies can build their moat, and it's actually data utilization. And the companies that are exploiting data, that are building bigger moats, that is at the core of what is happening.
Reader was on Bloomberg Open Interest. JP Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, all boosting their bonus pools for bankers and traders by at least 10%. The payouts reflect a strong year for the nation's largest banks, which collectively posted their largest annual profit since 2021. Consumer sentiment in the U.S. has improved to its highest level in 6 months. The University of Michigan survey shows a bump to 57.3. That's up from 56.4. But still, survey director Joanne Shu says that's not a lot.
So this improvement is very, very small. It's less than 1 index point. It's well within the margin of error. This should be interpreted as a no change.
Concerns persist about the job market and the impact of inflation on personal finances, with respondents assessing the highest probability since July of 2020 of losing their own job. Atlanta Fed President Raphael Bostic says it's important to keep interest rates at a level that returns inflation to 2%. He says he's cautiously optimistic about the economic outlook this year, citing the fading effects of tariffs and the potential boost from tax cuts from Congress.
For today, I think most businesses and most households are not thinking that the worst of the possible outcomes are going to happen. They're not sure they can get to the best ones, but everyone's trying to find a steady state where they can get through. So I think the sentiment is one of cautious optimism, but I'd put emphasis on the cautious as opposed to the optimism. I think people are really trying to wait and see what happens.
Bostic, who is set to step down from his role at the end of the month, spoke to Bloomberg TV's Mike McKee in an exclusive interview. Work on a $16 billion Hudson River rail tunnel project is set to come to a halt today after the Trump administration's decision last year to freeze its funding. Multiple news outlets now reporting that President Trump has offered to release funding for the Gateway Infrastructure Project if Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer agreed to support renaming both Washington Dulles International Airport and New York's Penn Station after President Trump. New York and New Jersey are seeking a temporary restraining order to force the administration to continue that funding. A hearing is set for later today. President Trump shared a video on social media that includes a racist depiction of former President Obama and his wife Michelle as primates in a jungle. The post drew backlash. Critics, including Republican Senator Tim Scott, called it, quote, the most racist thing I've seen out of this White House. He urged Trump to remove it. Axios says a White House official claims the staffer posted the video by mistake and it's been taken down. That's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. This is Bloomberg.